I was able to view a copy of Terence Davies' latest feature, 2021's Benediction. I've been an admirer of Terence Davies for quite some time now. Ever since 2015 or so, I've been enamored of Davies' filmography, and I consider him perhaps the greatest living English film director, or certainly the figure whom encapsulates, for me, the notion of Englishness, typically for the pursuit of period pieces, as honestly and unpretentiously as possible. Englishness is not glamour, superiority, or even a coherent philosophical disposition, but a series of expectations and disappointments. Davies attempts to fuse several modes of cultural expression within his work. His films are always seemingly reliant on another, pre-existing artistic medium to emphasize his social subjects. From the luminous depictions of collective song in Distant Voices' Still Lives, or the celebration of cinema itself as a psychological escape in The Long Day Closes, or, of course, the archival collage that was Of Time in the City, Davies utilizes cinema as a sublime condensing channel of English cultural communication. In Benediction, Davies depicts the life of Siegfried Sassoon. Sassoon was one of England's leading poets during the First World War and a mentor to the much-acclaimed Wilfred Owen. Surviving the war and receiving critical praise in his post-war life, Davies identifies and illustrates Sassoon as a composite. In the particular, you will find the universal biography of that particular generation. The First World War is still seen by numerous individuals today as the moment which marked the end of the so-called Pax Britannica. Some have gone so far as to suggest that faith in God, king and country, period, was permanently tainted by its enabling of the Great War and the sheer loss of life which it entailed. How could one perceive those 4 years as a defensive war, or as anything except the disputes of monarchs and generals taken out upon clueless young men? An entire generation of deceived soldiers were guinea pigs to the worst excesses of 20th century technological modernity. No practice of interpretation could truly remove the immediate implications of the Great War on Britain. The ruling classes did not truly care for their subjects, England clearly did not feel a great sanctity of life, and Christianity, in spite of its texts, essentially meant anything goes. Sometimes this film, which inserts excerpts of Sassoon's poetry, reminds me of Derek Jarman's films, particularly War Requiem, obviously. I felt so overjoyed and empowered viewing Benediction. It is remarkable to me that Terence Davies still had such a potent vision to share, and what profound feelings he is clearly experiencing. Siegfried Sassoon is utilized to describe everything tragic befalling his country during the early 20th century. It is such a phenomenally tired cliché to describe the First World War as the end of a perceived English psychological utopianism, the apparent dissolution of the belief that God, king and country were truly unquestionably good. Yes, here Siegfried Sassoon is presented as the noble notion of a patriot, someone who insists on his nation's inherent cultural beauty, an admirer of the arts, beguiled by the expressive talents of others, enamored of the idyllic happiness which his nation's historical pride has granted him and his loved ones. He loves his nation because of the people it has produced, whom he loves. Sassoon objects to imperialism, to conquest, to nation for nation's sake. There is something richer, more substantial, more universal and articulate to a nation than her sheer existence and prowess. The culture which produces so much which he loves, there must be something more. It surely cannot be defined by the men who would demand the need to make war. Now, at the same time, it is an exploration of Sassoon as a personality, irrespective or regardless of what it represents about his birth nation. The portrayal of Sassoon's private life, his loves and losses, extrapolate upon his poetry and accounts of his life in order to demonstrate what it was that this historical figure saw as beautiful in this world. In a contemporary world wherein we constantly look toward the past rather than the future for visions of an idyllic Arcadia paradise, a film like Benediction gives an audience with this passionate soul, Siegfried Sassoon, and his own ideal Arcadian paradise, and is pining after its demise. Perhaps, as Davies Sassoon hones in on what it is that makes him love, our viewer might feel enabled to embark upon their own search. Benediction is a truly remarkable film in my opinion, and I found it extremely inspiring. Its vision of a perceived utopia departing is insightful in determining our own examination of experience. Are we constantly chasing for lost expectations of a world which we deem as never having come to pass? Is Sassoon our mirror, never experiencing the tranquil England of his parents and the parents of those he loves? The title of the film is presumably referencing the Catholic benediction, wherein the host cleric blesses the gathered congregation with the Eucharist at the end of the sacrament's observance. A benediction can be defined as distinct from a typical blessing. A blessing is traditionally, popularly, implying some sort of approved reward, an act of an inherent holiness and sanctity to it. A benediction could instead be defined as a short invocation of the divine, seeking some sort of guidance, or we might say, seeking a blessing. Terence Davies' Benediction is a film in which Siegfried Sassoon, in the service of love, is not only exposed to the reverence of the audience, but in which this idealized image of the poet is implored to bless the viewers present before the screen. It is not so much Terence Davies who blesses the people through this picture, as it is the life and works of Sassoon himself, depicted throughout this film, who bestows benediction upon us.